Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out on this blistery, cold, wintry night. I thought winters in New York no longer happened. So tonight we are doing an event for the Heroin Chronicles from Akashic Books. Woohoo! And the evening will be emceed by Jerry Stahl. Yay! Author of Permanent Midnight, Painkillers, I Fatty, and Bad Sex on Speed. When I was emailing Akashic about whether or not I had books on hand, I wrote I have Bad Sex on Speed because I couldn't help myself, and then wrote just kidding, but it was too easy. Sorry, that was my cheesy joke. So that's it. Let's begin.
Thanks a lot for coming out. It's a very swanky setup. Laughing already. So this is a few words about this book. The Heroin Chronicles is part of a series that Akashic put out. They've done the, and I'm just going to say this, I'm a little proud because I was in the Cocaine Chronicles, I was in the Speed Chronicles, and I've been in the Heroin Chronicles. Sadly, I did not make the cut for the marijuana, Benadryl, and Aspercream, but they are forthcoming, and you should definitely pick up those. And I don't want to slow things down, but before we start, just a plea, because as my publisher pointed out, most of my readers, the reason my books don't sell is that most of my readers are shoplifters. So if any of you have slid this book down your pants already and are thinking of trying to go, St. Mark's has informed me there is a dye pack, an exploding dye pack, which will cause embarrassing genital discoloration, as opposed to the non-embarrassing kind. And that said, we will introduce, speaking in the royal we, because I'm in front of a crowd, our first reader is Zoe Hansen, who is a Lower East Side legend, and her story going down. And before she comes out here, I just don't want anybody to let the shy, kind of retiring demeanor fool you. This woman is a serious writer. She's been there and back and lived to talk about it. So, with no further ado.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you all so much for coming out. It's such a typical thing to say, but really it's freezing. It's actually a joy to be in this book, and thank you so much, Jerry, because it's got so many wonderful stories and excellent writers in it, and that's kind of unusual. Anyway, this is a story which was a day in the life of my life. The streets were hot. They were actually stinking hot. Sticky cans and discarded food collected around full garbage cans, and the flies were feasting. Sweat trickled down my back, and it made me squirm. Banged up undercover cop car crawled past. The windows were rolled down, and two fat cops were sucking air. Walked down Avenue C. So quiet. And it's still daytime. The fiends weren't fiending yet. Houston Street. I saw a young hip-hop kid selling Roadrunner by Parkside Lounge. Butterflies had flipped in my gut as I neared the buzzing block. Money had lost all meaning to me. It had become various amounts of heroin, my new currency. $100 meant a bundle, $50 half a bundle, 10 a bag, $5 a pack of smokes. Not enough for a bag, so who cares? A haggard street hooker had stood in front of me in the dope line, and I got right behind her. How many, Mama? The dealer asked. 5 bundles. I got you. I got you. Then I saw my friend Marilyn. She was like my running partner. She was walking with a thin, young Hispanic man that I didn't recognize. Marilyn! I yelled out. Thank God, perfect timing. I could go to her pad. I could get straight instead of using the filthy bathroom at Odessa. Can I use your place? I asked. She knew what I meant. I was going to go to Tito's. You can get straight there. Got a bag for me? She said. We headed to 3rd between Avenue C and D, the south side of the street. It was an open lot, now been turned into big, huge, very expensive buildings. But it used to be just a strewn strewn rubble everywhere, where junkies turned tricks on discarded mattresses. Tito pulled open the front door to the building. We filed past his mother. I don't know how people lived in those filthy, cramped places, but there were overfilled plates and flies, and it was pretty nasty. There were 2 young men that were sitting at the table. They were smoking crack. I held my breath. I hated the smell of crack. I followed Marilyn into the bathroom, and I passed Jojo, who eyed me up and down, and he was licking his lips. He was dripping in sweat. His eyes were black and crazed. Made me nervous. I had to get straight. I had to get out of there. I took the toilet seat, Marilyn took the edge of the bathtub, and we set up. We'd done this a million times. I could do it blindfolded. I wonder how many times in my life I've stuck a needle in my arm. Should have kept a record. I handed Marilyn a bag. She thanked me. What if, like, the world runs out of water? She said. What are you talking about? What do you mean if the world runs out of water? She often came up with these bizarre paranoid thoughts and was hoarding water in her closet so we could get high, because we needed water to get high with. Don't worry about it, I said. You know, I mean, if there's no water, like, how are we going to get high? Babe, think of the ocean. There's the ocean. There's a whole world of heroin addicts can get high with the ocean. Sure about that? She said. Swear. Ain't it salty? Motherfuck, for God's sake, all the things you should be worrying about in our lives right now, this isn't something you should worry about. The dope had already hit her. She was feeling good and beginning to ramble. And there's nothing worse than a dope fiend who's feeling good when you're still trying to find a vein. Motherfuck, I fucking hate this shit. My life is hell, I spat out as I tied up my other arm. Sweat's pouring off my face. I'm soaking wet. Couldn't get a hit. Marilyn turned my arm round. She stuck the needle in. Boom, she got the hit immediately. You should have been a nurse, I said. Shoulda, coulda, she said. All of a sudden, we heard a very loud crash and a scuffle. Jojo outside was threatening to burn the place up and kill me and Marilyn. Tito was yelling about something other. I got really scared. Marilyn and I, we locked arms. She motioned to get into the bathtub. We did, and closed the shower curtains really quietly. We couldn't disappear, but we obviously were in there. But I think Marilyn thought if we closed our eyes, we would disappear. We sat and we waited for something. I was wondering how I got into these situations, and I began making deals with my God that if I got out of this jam, I'd go on a methadone program, I'd get straight, you know, I'd do all the things that we all have said a million times. It's Jojo, he's crazy. It's that crack shit. Turns him into the devil. Jojo burst in to the bathroom, and he grabbed my hair and twisted it around his hand. He stuck a kitchen carving knife under my chin. The point was pressed and forcing my head upwards. He whispered between clenched teeth. His breath stunk like monkey balls, and he was spitting saliva onto the side of my cheek with each word. He filed us out into the kitchen. When we walked, Tito put the gun into the back of Tito's back and walked him into the other room. I jerked my head up, and the point of the knife slipped and cut me under my chin, and I felt blood dripping down onto my white shirt. Jojo put his face in my hair and inhaled. He whispered, "I'm gonna fuck you, white bitch. But first you're gonna suck my dick. I'm gonna fuck your tight ass. You're gonna like my dick." I held my breath as he talked. His teeth were stained and crooked, and he pressed my hand on his crotch. He leaned into me and rammed his tongue in my mouth, slobbering all over my face. And then suddenly, as though remembering what the fuck he was doing, he got up all of a sudden and said, "Give me the dope. I know you got dope, bitch." He looked in my eyes and suddenly softened. I mean, like, you know, we can party together. You want to get some rock? Like, we can hang. You like to smoke, right? My God. Was he serious? This has gone from a possible assault, rape, robbery to a fucking date. I I knew my only way out of there was to stay calm and pretend like I liked him. Yeah, sure, I like to smoke crack. I like to smoke crack. Who doesn't? He put the knife down, tore open a bag after I handed him the dope, and he did a line. Marilyn was pleading with him to let him go. He walks into the other room. The two of them file into the other room. And I look at Marilyn. I look at the door. I look at Marilyn. Can we get out of here without him coming back in here? I leapt up and I jumped towards this door. It's got all sorts of bolts on it, old school stuff that's been there for 45 million years. And I'm trying to pull on everything and nothing's really moving. And she's banging on my back. Come on, come on. Finally, the door opens and we fly down the hall. As we're flying down the hall, we hear a huge loud pop, like a gun going off. We run out onto the sidewalk. We jump through two kids that are sitting on the sidewalk. I'll never forget. It's always seemed to be a blistering sun on Avenue C, a never-ending heat. I squinted my eyes to the blinding light. Marilyn says to walk calmly, like nothing's unusual, whatever that means. What the hell? You know, that must have been Dee that fired that shot. I hope Tito's okay. I had to get some water. I mean, I just had Jojo's tongue in my mouth. Oh, it's disgusting. We stopped on the corner to catch our breath. 2 cop cars flew over potholes, and I felt their speed as they smashed through still air. They must be going to Tito's. Someone in the building called in the gunshot. We stood at the light waiting to cross. Marilyn turned round. They didn't stop at the building, she said as we crossed the street. What do you mean? I looked around to see both cop cars turning onto Avenue D. No one cares, Marilyn said. You think anyone saw us? You think like we should go to the cops or something? I asked nervously. She smiled. Cops? Hell, no one goes to the cops. She shook her head, laughing at my panic. We weren't there. We saw nothing. Whatever, she grinned. I felt for the 3 fat bundles in my bra and smiled back at her. Yeah, whatever. Thank you.
I've never really done the Dick Clark thing before, where I've introduced different guests, and I'm feeling a little facelifty, trying to think of things to say between the acts. But I will say that Nathan Larson, our next reader, is really an amazing talent. He's composed a score for a bunch of movies, including Dirty Pretty Things, Boys Don't Cry. Also the author of 2 really amazing fucking novels, The Dewey Decimal System and its sequel, The Nervous System, which is back there, and I seriously recommend you all buy. So now that I'm done pimping, let's bring on Nathan.
Good evening. Thanks so much for coming. Y'all, this is like a rock star kind of thing. This is pretty amazing. I cannot believe I'm in this company. I am humbled, and I want to thank the St. Mark's folks as usual, and Jerry, of course, for putting this all together. I'm a pussy, so I went the like I couldn't do the war story thing. I just am not ready to put that down on paper. So I have a couple of novels that are set in this kind of dystopian depiction of New York, where there's a lot of damaged people who are trying to rebuild their lives. So I decided to set my story in that world rather than actually have to deal with the realities. Anyway, so this story is called Das Mac and the Jones. Das Mac, accomplished urban planner and the mind behind some heavy-duty military technology, is draining his first cup of coffee as he notes an ancient but absolutely unmistakable tug in his groin and stomach. Das gives it a second. Player, please. And yet there it is, that heat in his gut. If you felt it once, you couldn't possibly misdiagnose it. Sets down his brown MTA mug on the metal gurney that supports his piecemeal bachelor's kitchenette. Motherfucker, says Das into the stale air of his cavernous live-work laboratory. How long had it been? 3 years plus, but Das knows this is irrelevant. The Jones is an eternal flame. The Jones is terminal. The Jones rides shotgun in your lizard brain towards the infinite night, its soft tendrils tickling your prostate into the grave, and perhaps beyond. Das rocks an off-white Puma tracksuit, flip-flops, clothes that he fled his apartment in over 6 months ago when they blew up the bridge nearby. Everything is outsized. He is shrinking, drying up. The loose flesh of a once stocky man hangs off him like a shitty suit. His hair is untended or natural or nappy, shooting skyward from his scalp in a salt and pepper afro. He places his hand on his cheek, calculates the length of his beard to be just shy of a centimeter. A yellowed plastic breathing apparatus hangs loose around his neck, from which a thin tube dangles. Das Mac was not the name he was born with. Motherfucker, the man repeats, for there is now no doubt as to what he must do today. He envisions his day with growing horror and annoyance, plans for further microscopic tweaking of his 3D model of the reconstructed subway system are now fucked. He would need his oxygen tank. He would need his hand cart. He would need. Problems present themselves to this man with respect to securing some heroin in this environment. Das Mac has no idea what day or time it could conceivably be, and more to the point, New York City, his hometown, rendered alien to him after the events of February 14th, the island of Manhattan, a decimated void, now in an endless state of rebuilding, seemingly leading nowhere, one massive semi-abandoned construction site. He has no clue as to who would have the good stuff on hand or where, or if shaking some loose is even a remote possibility. Shuffles sideways, turns a bit, blinks at the wall of computer monitors, stacked willy-nilly closed-circuit cameras showing Times Square, Barron, Save a Tractor, a couple NYPD vans, a loose grouping of soldiers in black scuba suits. Another screen shows the corner of Hester and Broome, and 40 feet east of that, yet another camera is trained on the sidewalk outside his front door, which is virtually traffic-free. The fluorescent light at the rear of this gigantic room flickers. Now once that goes, simply getting a fucking bulb for that shit will be a serious, likely a very dangerous task. And suddenly he has the fucking stones to fancy he can saunter out, pick up some smack, and be back before lunch. Das Mac is kidding no one. His regular Narcotics Anonymous posse would be so very disappointed. His sponsor would wobble his head at the staggering waste of it all that work. The breakthroughs and the milestones, the weepy mea culpas and poker chips all for naught. But there is no more N.A., finito, no more meetings, no more rooms. The rooms sitting silent and derelict or buried under rubble and ash. Either way, that crutch is history. Now, as addicts go, Das had been more than highly functional. In this and in all things, the Mac excelled. Some labeled him an overachiever, attempting to compensate for his bleak roots in the housing projects of Brownsville. Das found this insulting and simplistic. Everybody's got their scene. His scene was that he was black and poor in America. And hey, haven't we done away with the stereotypes and all that bullshit, etc., etc. At what point do you stop being a prodigy? When you hit 18? At 12? When is it no longer charming? At what juncture do you become just another annoying brain clogging the coffee shops and microbreweries near MIT? The thing with Das and the smack was never an issue of health or well-being, nor did anybody aware of his habit do more than whine at him for being fucking lazy or for not fucking sharing. Most of his trashy ex-boyfriends with their non-stop waxing and bulimia, most of these trifling faggots he wouldn't wish on his most despised enemy. No, the issue was money, as in he spent it all on drugs and therefore had none. That was what got him eventually. That's what gets most everybody. At the absolute height of his game, Das floated untouchable through space and time, his habit and his career tracking parallel, neither affecting the other in the slightest, or so he thought. He had a long, good run. As a youngster, Das had fast-tracked it through Brooklyn Tech. By night, he mainlined, snorted, and freebased it through as much junk as his body could handle. Somehow his sense of how much was too much was very finely honed, and Das Mac made sure to stay on the right line, the right side of that line. For all his skag consumption, Das had always been a bit of a health nut, with an emphasis on the nut. No alcohol, over-the-counter painkillers, plus a strictly meat, gluten, and dairy-free diet, even in these current conditions. And trust, this regime is not easy to maintain in the best of circumstances. Try keeping it up in a husk of a town like this one. After his creation, the missile guidance system, originally conceived as an attempt to increase efficiency in the New York City subway, and Mac's subsequent courtship by the government, his stint in naval intelligence made maintaining a smack hobby a touch trickier. The pop drug testing, the security screening. He's positive that the brass willfully ignored some seriously red flags, and although folks can get used to anything, it wasn't exactly comfortable smuggling clean urine around the academy grounds, plastic test tube shoved up his ass. Yeah, it was trickier in the Navy, that is until he got deployed to the motherland. That depopulated hole where the poppy grows wild and unchecked, manna in unending supply. Das even toyed with the notion of investing in the thriving export operation whose participants and actors were countless within the ranks of the military and private contractors. It seemed safe enough, but in the end, Das was content in his role as a proactive user, wanted only to get high and play with his little models. He was no businessman and certainly not an enthusiastic risk taker. Now the man finds himself itching his arm in anticipation. For a dude of extreme caution and calculation, what he's contemplating would have to count as one of the most reckless acts he's ever undertaken. He will have to go out with a capital O. It's just that way. That's just the way it is. How long since he'd been outside? He glances at his monitors again quick, as if they might hold some crucial information. Weeks, a month? If anything had changed, it will have been for the worse. That much is for damn sure. But his gut, itchy, hot, tells himself one last time. Fuck it, it's been a stressful year, to say the least. Isn't a man entitled to a little relaxation, having survived what some might describe as an apocalypse? Even so, he will have to go out. Thank you very much.
So, all cheesy entertainment bullshit aside, this next reader is a real hero and inspiration of mine, and we're really lucky to have him here. He's doesn't need an introduction, but since I am paid by the word, I am going to give one. He's starred and wrote Suburbia, talk radio, play, movie, and he will perform in your home as well for a fee. And also an amazing fucking novelist. And his last book, The Perforated Heart, I hope it's here. If it isn't, fuck everybody. It should be. It's a great book. And of course, you may know him as Captain Danny Ross from Law & Order CI. Not many people embrace the high and the low, but it's all high with Eric. So no further ado, Eric Bogosian.
Jerry, I was going to kiss you as I came up here. As I could. Thank you. I was in a crappy casino in Connecticut yesterday, and with all these like old retired guys who just sit there for hours and hours and only play aces and kings. But and this guy came and sat at the table, at the poker table, with this like hoodie on, nodding his face off. I mean, I thought that stuff was done, but I guess there's a lot of people out there. Of course, the corporate America has found a way to legalize being a dope fiend. You just get people in Connecticut and elsewhere on Vicodin and OxyContin. And there was a part of me that thought, you know, I wish I could be sitting at a casino poker table all day long tripping on dope, but that's just one part of me. It's a long time ago. My love affair with this drug was brief. It was only about 5 years, and it was enough. I don't recommend it. I'm serious about that. But I do think that wherever anybody is in their life, they think that's the right place at the time when they're there. I mean, and I don't think you can argue that. You can't say you're wrong for that. I mean, it could have killed me, but it didn't. So then I had a different opinion at another time. And because of that, when I was writing things around that time, I was very interested in the philosophy of people who had seriously committed themselves to this drug, and this is has something to do with that. This was something I performed, so excuse the performance quality of my reading. The way I see it, it's a fucked up world. It's not going anyplace. Nothing good is happening to nobody. You think about it these days, nothing good is happening to anybody, and if something good is happening to anybody, it's not happening to me. It's not happening to myself. The way I see it, there be this man, some man sitting in a chair behind a desk in a room somewhere down Washington, D.C., see, and this man, he'd be sitting there, he'd be thinking about what we should do about the crime rate, air pollution, space race, whatever this guy's supposed to be thinking about. And this guy, he'd be sitting down there and thinking, and he'd be thinking about what's happening in my life. He'd be deciding on food stamps and work programs and the welfare and medical aid and the hospitals and whether I'd be working today, making all kinds of decisions for me. He'd be worrying about how I spend my time. Then he leaned back in his old leather chair. He started thinking about the nuclear bomb. He'd be deciding whether I live or die today. Nobody makes those decisions for me. That's for me to decide. I decide when I want to get up in the morning, when I want to work, when I want to play, when I want to do shit. That's my decision. I'm free. When I die, that's up to God or somebody, not some guy sitting in a chair, see? I just want to live my life. I don't hurt nobody. I turn on the TV set, I see the way everybody be living with their swimming pools and their cars and houses and living room with the fireplace in the living room, and there's a fire burning in the fireplace. A rug in front of the fireplace, lady, she be lying on the rug, evening gown on, jewelry, sipping a glass of cognac. She be looking in the fire, watching the branches burning up, thinking about things, thinking. What's she thinking about? I just want to live my life. I don't ask for too much. I got my room, got my bed, my chair, my TV set, my needle, my spoon. I'm okay, see? I'm okay. I get up in the morning, I comb my hair, I wash my face, I go out. I hustle me up a couple of bags of D, new works if I can find it. I take it back to my room, I take that heroin. I cook it up good in the spoon there. I fills my needle up. Then I tie my arm. I use a necktie. It's a pretty necktie. My daughter gave it to me. Tie it tight, pump my arm. Then I take the needle, I stick it up into my arm, find a hit, blood. Then I undoes the tie. I push down on that needle. I got everything any man ever had in the history of this world, just sitting in my chair. I got love and I got blood. That's all you need. I can feel that blood all going up behind my knees
in my stomach, in my mouth, I can taste it. Sometimes it goes back down my arm, come out the hole, stain my shirt. I know there's people who can't handle it. Maybe I can't handle it. Maybe I don't get all strung out and fucked up. But even if I get all strung out and fucked up, don't make no difference to me. Even if I get that hepatitis and the broken veins or ulcers in my arms, addicted, don't make no difference to me. I was all strung out, fucked up in the first place. Life is a monkey on my back. You ride around in your car, swim in your warm swimming pool, wash your fire. I don't mind. I don't mind at all. Just let me have my taste, have my peace. Just leave me be. Just leave me be. Thank you.
The funny part is, that's actually his natural voice. So, the other stuff's all acting. Not a lot of people know that. Our next reader, I feel like fucking Ed Sullivan on crack here. It's just so wrong. I guess we're not going to have an introduction because
There we are.
Lydia, well, fuck it, here you are.
Say what I told you to say.
If I had a memory, I would. She's the king of New York and rock star, author, and she does a lot of work with the kids.
The younger the better.
That's right. All right, Lydia Lunch.
Thank you, Jerry Stahl. Thank you, Jerry Stahl. Jerry asked me to be in this book, but I've only done heroin twice, so this is one of the times, because, you know, I like other things. Adrenaline. Never answer the door at 5:45 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Either somebody's too high, somebody's just died, or somebody's arrived who wants to fucking kill you. I drove 2,777 miles just to get away from him. From the Hudson River to the Pacific Ocean, it still wasn't far enough away. A low-browed dirt bike racer from Topanga Canyon who was hell-bent on a cross-country creepy crawl had pulled up, swept me off my feet, and threw me in the front seat of a dilapidated pickup truck and headed west, gunning it at full speed until we hit that slum by the sea, Venice, California. He said he was on a rescue mission to save me, that he'd been sent east by a mutual friend who was concerned for my safety after hearing stories about hospital stays and late-night 911 calls, and I just thought, great, the sociopath abducts the schizophrenic out from under the psychopath in a late-night snatch and grab. Let's go. Something had to give, because I was at the breaking point. The burned-out buildings, uncollected garbage, broken streetlights, endless break-ins, chronic shakedowns, and general havoc wreaked down the streets in New York City's Lower East Side. 1979 had nothing to do with what was going on in my own apartment. The alcoholic, pill-popping Irish construction worker I'd been holed up with for the past few months, getting fucking mean. Jealous, cruel, beautiful. An irresistible combination of mania and machismo. By day, he'd play Iron Man up at the crack of 6, sporting boxers and a wife-beater, Lucky Strike behind his left ear, throwing sandwiches in a bag, filling a thermos with black coffee and Irish whiskey, singing a silly rockabilly song, a sly smile, dancing under sleepy green eyes, happy to just be alive as he kissed me goodbye and disappeared out the door. Everything honky-dory. Until the sun went down, the knives came out, and he stumbled back from the bar half plastered after banging steel girders together for another 8-hour stretch. Now, the first 30 minutes when he got home was always filled with bliss. We'd kiss, fall back into bed, and batter our bodies into each other until he started bleeding. Then batter away a little bit more, swallowing a couple of Seconals with a back of Johnny Walker Black, and that's how we did it. And that, my friend, is where the trouble came in. Because Loverboy loved his booze more than he loved me. And in return, the booze hated my fucking guts. Probably because I refused to play slave to it and only use booze as a lubricant for pharmaceuticals. It was a treacherous combination, I admitted it. Triggered the bitch that provoked the bastard and resulted in a fucking that felt more like fighting, and the fighting would flare up over some petty, jealous bullshit, usually concerning who I was or wasn't fucking, while the dick was dry humping rebar over at the construction site, breaking his goddamn ass and on until the garbage trucks rambled on the early morning run and he passed out for 2 or 3 hours, waking up the fucking Irish bastard refreshed and ready to greet the day as if nothing had fucking happened with a good morning, darling. Care for a cup of joe? As he smiled, whistling through wolfen teeth. Now, if Marlon Brando did Badlands while stoned on barbiturates and booze, well, yeah, you get the picture. The one that played and rerun like a bad Turner classic that our TV eyes got stuck on night after fucking night for weeks on end, and on and on and on it went. It's so wrapped up in torturing the shit out of each other that the world outside our ghetto hidey hole was just a squirrel gray cotton candy haze that we were just too fucked up to realize didn't muffle the screeching or screams forever leaching out the windows and reverberating into the street below. And if anyone was fucking tuned in, they probably could have heard us all the way to the west fucking coast. Our psychosis getting carried away like radio frequencies, emitting toxic shock waves into the ionosphere. I need to get the fuck out fast, man. I spiked his drink, packed a bag, left a note, and climbed into the front seat of the Grease Monkey's pickup truck, which was parked on the corner of 12th Street and Avenue B, where he'd been waiting for me to show up for the last 36 hours so that he could save me. 4 days later, we landed in Ghost Town. A grungy biker and his nubile Las Vegas bride, a bitchy witch dressed in black, casting voodoo glances at the neighborhood hood rats. They probably feared the look on my face more than I feared what they hid in their waistbands. Gangbangers left me alone, but the ghost wouldn't. They were everywhere. Los Angeles. A beautifully hideous sprawl, stretching like an ever-expanding virus of sick contagion under the relentless sun as hot devil winds blow down from the mountains, scorching the landscape. The promise of an endless summer shattered by gunshots and sirens, helicopters and hospital beds. Welcome to Hollywood, asshole, where anything is fucking possible. Now, New York City may have been bankrupt, decrepit, and suffering from the final stages of rigor mortis in 1979, but the California dream was a waking nightmare of dead-end streets, ripe with bloated corpses where bad-beat poets, dope-sick singers, cracked actors, and petty criminals were all praying to a burnt-out star on the fucking sidewalk, all betting on a chance encounter which would flip the script in their lazy, late-night, made-for-TV movie of their wasted lives, and I guess I was no different. Everything was fucking honky-dory, man. Peaches and whipped cream for the first 6 months of matrimonial bliss until the lunatic who rescued me from the maniac took a bad spill on the Pacific Coast Highway and ended up in a coma with 2 charges of vehicular manslaughter on his rap sheet and a letter at the side of his bed which threatened eviction from our Venice crash pad. Went home, and again I started to pack my bags. Now, in the same way that a shark can smell blood, a junkie's sixth sense alert them to any possible random opportunity that may rise in which they can hustle, steal, score, or move in on and take advantage of an unsuspecting Mark's benevolent disposition, a friend's temporary weakness, or an ex-girlfriend's first night alone in a house. It was 5:45 a.m. on a Sunday morning when the doorbell blasted and shattered what was left of my nerves. Impeccable timing. Bastard always had it. Even down to the way he smoked a cigarette as I opened the door, holding it down between thumb and index, deep drag, a small puckering sound as he pulled it away from his lips, staring straight into my eyes before he flung the butt on the wet grass, a sadistic smirk creeping in and cracking up the left side of his face, his husky whisper hypnotic and irresistible. Good morning, darling. Spare a cup of joe for the road warrior? The Irish construction worker. 193 days later, in the distance of almost 3,000 miles, meant nothing to the madman who just showed up convinced he could walk right in, whistling Dixie, and simply steal me right back. But don't laugh, because I let him fucking in. And with the same cunning of a snake that can sense whether or not you're about to attack it first, a schizophrenic can detect the atmospheric flux in a psychopath's gravitational force field. And something inside him had shifted slightly since I last saw him. His magnetism seemed less manic, more mesmerizing, fucking hypnotic. I'm off the sauce, he grinned, head cocked, a quick wink, and one hand pulling out a small white packet of what I assumed to be cocaine from the inside pocket of his leather jacket. And on the fucking skids, I quit, turning around and walking toward the bedroom door, which he quickly pinned me against. Oh, don't walk away from me. He said, not again. Come on, I'll leave. I will. Just let's smoke a cigarette, do a little line, and if you want me to leave, I'll promise I'll go. I just want to look at you for 5 more minutes, please, baby. He slowly backed away, pulling me with him, easing me onto the couch as he got down on one knee like a love-struck delinquent, sucking air between teeth and whispering, "Down, down. You're fucking out, little luscious bitch." I know. He opened the packet, spilled out some white powder, rolled a note, and handed it to me with a sweet smile that concealed his deceit and trickery. I had to get the hell away from her. I knew I'd be suckered right back into that motherfucker. I need coffee. I mean, it was almost 6 a.m. I lied. I need to fucking split. I'll put some on. I slithered off the couch, fake smile planted on my lips, and suggested he chop out a few fatties. I'd be right back. I planned on spiking him again. I still had half a dozen Seconals left over from our binge in New York. I mean, I quit that shit when I quit him, but make the coffee strong enough and black enough, and he'll never know what fucking hit him. I'll grab a bag, write a note, and leave both the psychopath and the sociopath that rescued me from him right where they fucking belong, both in a fucking coma. I could hear the methodical rhythm of razor on glass, a deep, snotty inhalation as he cleared his throat, a quick snort followed by a soft chuckle. Now, why the hell was that motherfucker chuckling? It prickled the hair on the back of my neck. I poured the coffee, emptied the Red Devils into the muddy brew, and prayed for deliverance while slinking over to the couch. He handed me the note. I gave him the cup. I just wanted to get this fucking over with. He swigged the coffee like it was chugging beer, you know, all habits and all that crap, right? I snorted a fat blast of what I thought was cocaine and immediately fell ass backwards, landing on the bag I'd just been packing earlier that night, hitting my head on the edge of the table. It knocked me out. I woke up bloody and puking, projectile vomiting, all over the table, all over his dope, all over his boots, down the front of my slip, great heaving waves of gelatinous funk just shooting out of my mouth and nose, thick, rich fists of sour phlegm cascading in golden arcs all over the room. I pissed myself and started to fucking laugh. I mean, the bastard had almost killed me. I'd never done heroin. He knew that. It wasn't my fucking trip. I wasn't looking for nirvana or a velvet womb or a soft euphoric haze of interstellar space to melt into. I dug the shit that jacked up the irritation level. Barbs and booze, coke or speed, LSD. Something that accelerated my already jacked up metabolism. I wasn't interested in slowing shit down, smoothing it out, softening the edges. I wanted to keep the edges rough. Like the one I just hit my fucking head against. Like the one that finally banged a bit of sense in my thick fucking nugget. Never, under any circumstances, will I answer the door at 5:45 a.m. on a motherfucking Sunday morning.
Thanks, Jerry.
It was Lydia Lunch, and about a hand for all of our readers. How about a hand? I've never actually said that before, never having been in this position, but I'm here now. We're going to mix it up a little. This is another book that I am contractually bound to read from. It's called Bad Sex on Speed, so it's kind of a shift in tone. As some of you know, basically the difference between a junkie and a speed freak is that a dope fiend will steal your TV, and a speed freak will take it apart and leave it on your front lawn. So just something to keep in mind as I begin. And I know we've all been here for a while and people are squirming, so I'm just going to read 4 little sections. Bad Sex on Speed. The fuck are you laughing about? No, just kidding. I kid. That's just totally impromptu. The rush, the terror, the acrid stink of your sweat soaking through furniture 3 blocks away. Speaking of stink, what is that? Did somebody piss under your arms? Is that possible? Could they have pissed in your armpits 3 weeks ago and you just now noticed? Like, say, when you get in the cab and the seat's wet after a pack of frat boys beer up too hard and leave bud puddles? Why does, question, hop inside, and why does God hate you? You hear the splat when you hit the seat. Answer, because you're a fucking tweaker. You don't know your full wet ass till you squish out of the cab. People never call the police until it's wet ass time. Al Pacino, Sea of Love. Speed keeps you so clammy you can't feel damp. Just one of the many advantages. Fucking alcoholics, where's the dignity? Remember that dancer, Lola, Lurleen, Patricia, with a misspelled devil ink in her neck? Hail Satin. It's not a mistake, it's a statement. It was Lurleen. She had some kind of jailhouse hair lip that slurred her words to the left. You ass maggot, you think I'm a fucking creatine? I'm not proud of that voice, but it's really the only one I have, so I'm going with that. Upscale. After 11 vodka tonics, you'd see day workers hand her 5 sweaty dollar bills to lift her skirt and gaze in her labia, which weirdly resembled a pair of chimp ears. I know, all the PETA people out here. I heard it before. You'd seen one once in a French Quarter voodoo store. It was supposed to bring its owner lifelong protection and success. From the minute the Sisters of Marie Laveau gift shop door hissed shut behind you, you knew you should have bought the thing. Everything would have been different. Why are you such an asshole? Am I crying? Want to talk about how Lurleen, Darla, no, Zelda, would boot her vag needle, let it stand up and quiver by itself, then grand finale with a Heimlich-like shudder and pass out forehead first in the bar with the rig sticking out between her legs? I know, that old routine. The pink tip made it weirdly like a little dog's organ, aroused. You suffer compulsive thoughts, sometimes just images that you do not want to think, but cannot stop thinking. This is one of them. Actually, being here is one of them, but I'm forging on. Sometimes she'd wet herself. Who wouldn't? $5 more she'd croak when she came to and saw her condition. Remember when mysterious Hasids began to speak to you out of the ceiling? A rabbi would just appear. You'd realize you were staring at him, that he was talking. You'd think, maybe he was always there. And it took this much crystal to see him. The sad old shaded eyes followed you as he spoke. Seriously, why are you such an asshole? Part 2. Crashing. What's that like? Remember how you felt the first time you couldn't get it up? The scalding rage, the way Cheeto Dry Cindy Carminucci looked at you when you stopped trying to cram your 16-year-old shame handle into her? The squirm of recognition. Actually, Shame Handle was the original title of my first memoir. But we mixed it up. Look at you. 20 years later, the episode still has you assuming the cringe position. You raised your sweaty face, your eyes met hers, and she looked at you like you were some kind of a cripple, a sex gimp. That's another title. We rejected. It had been taken by a priest, weirdly enough. Crashing is that feeling, that kind of fun, some version of, non-stop. From the minute you wake up, if you sleep, which you don't, you're not an amateur. 3, what people who are never addicted don't understand. It's not just entertainment, it's educational this evening. You do not do this shit for pleasure. You did it for relief. Shoot enough and the world whooshed to quiet, and you were content just to sit, maybe drool a little, calm as a hyperactive toddler after his first lick of a Ritalin lollipop. I'm so in love it hurts. 4. The very sedate crowd here, clearly no one is on amphetamines, and I guess we're sort of more with the opiate side of town. Hang on to your wallets. I notice people, some people are wiping their nose and some people are trying to find their nose, which is a whole other drug. What a good drug does. What a good drug does is make you believe perfection is what you are going to feel forever. Then take it away. Throw you out of the cushioned fun car onto a rocky shoulder. Shrink your 900-page thoughts back to garble. De-Dorian Gray your brain. I'm sorry, what? Are you still talking? Remember that fake punk in Berlin who bit off his penis? Performance art. Be honest, Sparkle Pony. How's your life going? Really? Have you looked in the mirror lately? No. Really looked? Good for you. Hold on to that magic. Thanks a lot.